Okay, convening the Finance Committee meeting for Monday, November 18th. Do you know why I point that out?
Because we
Because
usually
it was
meet on
Tuesday
Tuesday.
on one of the versions?
It was Tuesday on the flyer sent out to the town.
No way. We changed that.
Did you catch that?
Yes. No, before it was supposed to be changed. Is that the flyer that was mailed or, no, I have the flyer that was.
I think I have what I saw as a final draft. Do you have one that shows Monday?
Yeah, I got it.
Great, okay. That's why we have Jean, one of many reasons. Thank you, Jean. Okay, so I think one of the things I'd like to address is what happens between the end of our meeting and I suppose today, but really happened in a few days after our meeting. And if you recall, and frankly, I want to comment first and say for everybody present at the last meeting, I really appreciated everybody's input. I thought everybody did a nice job with concise questioning and doing an analysis of some of the issues, particularly with that Article 5 issue that we all had so much concern about. So after we left, I think over the next few days, there was some discussion, if I can, some discussion within the town, and part about our concerns about the clearness or lack of clarity of the language, and it started to circulate that there might be a possibility of asking for a little less based upon a proposal that the town had already received by the time of our meeting that outlined a number of different pieces of the project. And the town's starting to recognize perhaps now they could only ask, or they could ask for just enough money to cover, if you will, a first phase of the project. As of today, my understanding is that there will be no presentation tonight of any language for Article 5. Any language that had been proposed even in the flyer as perhaps substitute language for a lesser amount. I think the consensus coming out of the town has been that perhaps it should be restarted as a process, done with a little more clarity and succinctness, and then reapproached. Frankly, what I saw that was somewhat surprising was an acknowledgement ultimately that if and when a need arose, it wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to try to convene a new special town meeting if the need arose to try to address the issuance of funding before next spring's annual town meeting. So for the moment, that Article 5 has been tabled. And that's all the information I can give you at the moment. I don't know if we'll see Matt.
Bob's here to speak.
Hi, Bob, here to speak.
Bob and Eric with the EDC, co-chairman.
Did I say anything that was not accurate?
You pretty much hit everything, but I could fill in a lot of your non-specific areas.
Okay.
You want
Bob, I'm sorry, who are you with again?
EDC, Economic Development Commission,
Oh, okay.
and I was actually sponsored this article.
Okay, if you don't mind coming up, even to just face the group. And normally we introduce ourselves, we can do that in a second. We've got an abbreviated meeting time tonight. So if you would, go ahead, please.
Just to add, and your name is?
Howard DeVito.
Howard?
Yep.
Just to add to Howard's, what he had just stated. There's two phases of construction. Actually, I shouldn't say construction, there's engineering and construction. The engineering is about a 3 to 4 month time period. And that's to determine the depth of the pipe, where the manholes are going, bring everything up to code. The fill around the pipes, a lot of engineering goes into running a water sewer line. But I'll back up one. There's 3 major areas in this town for large commercial development. As you know, when we passed Prop 2.5, the theme at that meeting was, where's industry? Well, the EDC has been very active in getting industry coming to town. 3 major areas: the pine, sand, and gravel pit, which the backside, not the existing pit, the McIntyre sand and gravel pit, and then Carol and I put together a 185-acre piece behind Granite Tech. It was previously 5 private owners. We have now collectively put that into a nice 185-acre assemblage. The first 2 I mentioned have water sewer service very close to it. We can talk to a developer and they're happy campers. When we talk to people about locating, buying the 185-acre site, they say, where's the water sewer? Well, it's a mile away at the high school. And we've been kicking this can down the road for far too long. We've already had a warehouse not come in because no water sewer, and we just run into a dead end. What I proposed at one of our EDC meetings was, we met with the water sewer commissioners and Bob Sullivan to at least start the engineering process for water sewer to bring up from up to at least Granite Tech. We need it there. The reason for the engineering on the sewer, if it's gravity feed, we want to make sure that pipe is deep enough to extend that pipe all the way to the Uxbridge line and keep it gravity feed. That's the reason for all this engineering. Water, you just drop it 4 feet in the ground and it's pressure. It will go uphill, downhill, doesn't matter. It's a pressure feed line. But the sewer is the one that needs a lot of engineering. But it's the easiest one to put in. So we went to Stantec probably 3-4 months ago, and they did that sheet that you're looking at, $501,000 for all the engineering. The engineering is into 2 phases. One is the engineering to design the pipes. The second one is to make sure during the actual construction that they're put in properly for a spec. What we've taken out, what we asked for originally was $1,000. That's the whole enchilada. We figured at this town meeting, if there was some resistance, let's just go for what we need right now. Let's go for just the engineering to get this process going, so we can show a potential developer we're doing something. Like I said, it's a 3 to 4 month lead time by Stantec just to do the engineering. When it comes time that we have a developer that will come in and do the project, now we turn it into a construction project. Now it goes before the Board of Selectmen, they give their blessing, the money is granted. That will cost about $2.1 million to run that water sewer line out to Granite Tech. At that point in time, we will approach MassWorks and get grant money to offset some of the costs. And maybe have the developer help with some of the costs. But that's down the road. What we need right now is engineering. My problem from the EDC is a time frame. You mentioned another special town meeting between tonight and the spring meeting. It costs money to get another town meeting going and time.
Not yet.
30-day notice. Yeah, I don't have that time. Like I said, one warehouse has already walked away because no water sewer. How long are we going to keep kicking this can down the road? So that's the position the EDC is in right now. We're getting revenue in to make your meetings a little nicer. Get you some money to work with. So, any questions?
Yeah, Howard, what was the kind of the vibe on why it was going to be passed over?
It was the verbiage. If you don't mind me taking that one, it was the verbiage. It was worded southeastern portion of town.
Right.
It came out of your meeting, and all of a sudden, somebody noticed that, wait a minute, the southeastern portion of town is in the Burryville section. You pull up the GIS maps, southeastern portion of town is in the corner of Rhode Island.
Right.
You look at Granite Tech and Davis Street, it's in the eastern portion, so it's just a word, southeastern versus eastern.
My perception here was it was more than that. I think there was a perception made in those first couple of days coming out of our meeting that the matter hadn't been, the verbiage hadn't been well done, the request hasn't been maybe put out as well as it could have been, the information flow hadn't been as much or as good as it could have been.
I was on the email chain with the verbiage, and that was my comment. You took the words right out of my mouth as far as perception. You ask any voter out there, is Granutech in the southeast portion of town. I guarantee you 99% of the people will say yes.
But if it's passed over tonight, doesn't that put you behind the eight ball in terms of the schedule?
Oh, yes, definitely.
So would there be a possibility that could be amended on the floor tonight?
I don't know. Can this be amended to change the wording?
I don't think so. You know, the way town council's approached this is that you would have to, the motion would have to be on point with the article, within the scope of the article, because there's a failure of notice. If the motion has more detail or corrects detail in the article, then there would be people who read the article and thought they knew what was going to be voted on, and the motion was different. Bob and I are always going to agree. I think there's, the part of the story here is the site developer has site control. So there is an entity that has a legally binding agreement, locking up the lots, and is in a position to sell to a developer interest. That is true. The developer interest does not have site control. So in the world of economic development, that's troublesome because the party investing the money does not yet have legal control over the real property. He has an agreement or a relationship with the site developer who does have that legal authority. Bob and others have been working and working and working, and we keep getting promised. This is how this article came about. Next week we'll have a P&S. We gotta be ready to rock and roll for MassWorks grant application. Oh, wait a minute, now it's gonna be next week. Well, maybe it'll be a couple of weeks from now. And so we've been in a holding pattern, I wanna say arguably 6 weeks to 8 weeks,
Yes.
since this has really come to fruition, and there's ongoing investigations on the property. So from an economic development perspective, this is very promising, it's heading in the right direction. The analysis is being done, they're digging holes in the ground, they're flagging wetlands, and they're doing serious things about the land, but there's no site control. The developer interested ultimately doesn't have site control. When you pair that with this difficulty with the language in the article, it's just too much. We want to come to the people of the town with a good, solid plan, and there's just too much confusion here. It's not. We can always have a special town meeting if we really need to, and the developer says, I'm ready to rock and roll, we need to get this set up for me. I think it's the kind of thing that people asked for during the override discussion was economic development. So if we had to invoke the bylaw that allows us to trigger a special town meeting, then we would do that.
If I may, Lynn, do you have a question?
I believe you sent us an email where I noticed that article, the figure was reduced to
Right.
about half. What was that about?
That's the present engineering and the construction engineering. The 501,000 was the entire project.
Okay,
We only need engineering now, design,
okay,
not construction.
all right,
When construction physically starts, they put a backhoe or excavator out there. That's when the other 250,000.
okay.
But we'll already have a special town meeting to appropriate that money.
I think that what came out of the meeting, our meeting, and what flowed over the next couple of days, at least from my perspective, was, with all respect to Matt, who was the poor guy who had been sent to sit in front of the meeting and answer what he could answer, the signal went out that before people come before us, they need to have their information, have it clear, and have it prepared. Because we've got a good panel that was prepared to ask some good questions and make some inquiries on behalf of the town and do some extra work. And I think people didn't come before us fully prepared with a tight. I was more than surprised to see the breakdown that Lynn's commenting on that showed 6 different elements adding up to the 501 or 502. And we had that information had been available before our meeting. It hadn't been shared with us at our meeting. So we're not prepared to go forward. I'm not prepared to entertain a motion to even suggest a vote because there's nothing to vote on. But I would suggest to anyone that if you wanted to propose it again and ask us to vote on it, I would look to have all the information you have as you come before us. Is that fair?
This is not
is that
tonight.
fair?
Yes.
Okay.
This is not tonight, this would be another meeting.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Ted.
I have another question.
Sure, yeah, sure.
This is for Jean. So Jean, I noticed when we had our original meeting, the article was to raise the 500 grand from available funds, and then the 250 is from free cash.
Well, the 500 was gonna be from free cash as well.
Okay.
The article is pretty broad, we make the articles as broad, it's the motion that would actually give the funding source.
Yeah, I
So
was just
the
surprised
intention
that-
was the 500 was gonna come out of free cash.
Yeah, the first motion didn't mention the free cash, but the second motion did.
It gave the funding source on the second motion. But
And
the
Phil-
intent was they were both gonna be out of free cash.
I see.
To your credit, I think your questions that night were incisive in terms of meeting the trigger, and those are things still on the table. And it leaves us with $502,000 extra to spend on, say, the school committee budget. You okay back there?
This is the problem.
No, right, you-
Can I ask I have two questions, but one directly for
Yes.
you all, for EDC. Is it normal for towns when they do, like, infrastructure projects to present some type of return on investment, analysis? In other words, if you're gonna spend, let's say it's around, we'll say $1 million altogether, between engineering and whatever, miscellaneous. Is there a return on investment analysis that's done by, well, here's what we're gonna get in return for taxes over the next 20 years? This is, you know what I mean? What's the return on investment, what's the added jobs, et cetera, et cetera? And I know they extrapolate a lot of things in that analysis, but at least something that would say to us, oh, this makes sense, we're gonna spend $1 million, but we're gonna get $4 million back next 20 years. So, do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's normal or not. So that's my question.
I can answer that question right off the top of my head. If you look at the warehouse in, the BJ's warehouse in Uxbridge,
Yeah.
that'll pay for that sewer line in 6 months. The project, the developer we're looking at to come in there, we could pay that off in 3 months.
Where's that?
It's that quick of a,
Right.
quick of a return.
So you guys could easily show that on one page of paper,
We
saying
could,
here's
when
what
this
the guesstimate
developer
is.
finally announces his intentions.
Sure. So, and now that brings me to my second question. I don't know the rules of order here in this particular group, but usually there's rules for closure or when there's sensitive
Sure.
business information being discussed.
Sure.
Is there such a procedure in this particular body? And sorry for the lack of knowledge, but
Sure.
would that be something that would apply when we're talking about sensitive business operations that might,
Executive
we don't want to.
Executive session
Board
is what
of,
you're
Board of
talking about.
Selectmen
Yeah,
can
thank
go into executive session, can finance? Okay, okay.
The fine point that I would have to research is whether or not the purpose of the executive session is to defend the town's negotiating position, or is it possible to do that to protect a corporate interest? private?
That was my,
Those are
my,
separate questions.
my
I don't
my
think
thought
the
was,
latter
if,
work.
oh, sorry.
Right.
It just thought, that corporations might not wanna have it public knowledge that they're doing certain things.
And Phil, if the ROI you need to see is 4X, theoretically, who it came from wouldn't matter, other than for you to make a judgment of, I find them to be more viable than someone else.
Yeah, it
But it's
just,
the 4X you wanna see.
it just makes
over X
sense.
period of time.
Yeah, to me, it's like, well, we're gonna spend this money and we're not gonna get it back for 753
You
years.
don't need to know the name though, you just
Oh,
need to see the map,
Well, no, not unless it's pertinent to the discussion. That's,
which it may not.
yeah, it may not be altogether.
I wanna wind this up because we've got a 7 o'clock. I know somebody would like us to vote on minutes, but we're not going to this evening. We're going to table that to our December 10th meeting, and then we'll have a whole agenda voting on minutes.
Please keep them with you, though.
We will.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn already.
That's not how you do it.
6:59, I think we gotta.
A motion to suspend and move into the town meeting.
Right,
I would entertain one of those two.
we would adjourn at the end of the meeting.
Good, excellent, Karen.
Or we
I'll
can
make
take up
a
the agenda.
motion for that. to
Or we can
adjourn.
take up the agenda.
No, not to adjourn.
No, we're gonna move into the next town meeting.
Any seconds?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's been done.